Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my one and only singular co-host, Tom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Friends, how are you?
Good to see you again, Tom. So I feel like it's been forever since we've hung out. We should do it more. It's been a whole 3 days since I've seen you.
And we were together the weekend before that too. Heaven
That's
forbid.
true. I've seen you too much, if we're honest with ourselves. Also joining us, two men who we also hung out with this last weekend because they were at the same tournament we were, and it was a great time. Paul from Radio Free Hammer Hall, Paul Conti. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's up, nerds? I'm doing quite well.
Paul, you're getting half credit for this appearance since Hooves is here as well. Also joining us, Matt, Hooves of Doom. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing pretty good, yeah.
Good to have you. Good to have you both. The two of you joined us this last weekend, and many other folks, at Steve Herner's wonderful Holy Wars tournament in Naperville, Illinois. We're going to talk a little about that. We're going to talk a little bit about tourneys in general. Tournaments with soul. What does that mean for a tournament to have a, I don't know, like a theme, a purpose, a meaning, something like that? What makes a tournament good?
An
That's what
identity.
we're gonna talk about that. Thank you, Tom. That's perfect. An identity. We're going to talk about tournament identities and how much it can vary and why that's a good thing. All right, but of course, first the news. So, what do we got?
So how about that rumor engine?
It is a Chaos Knight or Chaos
Horn.
similar thing, Hornblower, because it's almost identical to the Chaos Knight Hornblower.
Does that mean that we have multi-part knights coming?
One would finally hope we actually get that released. You mean with like a musician and standard bearer in the kit? Because that's what they
Yeah.
don't have now.
Yeah.
Yes. I assume, yes. I mean, I know no other way to read that rumor engine. That multi-part kit has been missing in action since 2019. It's just there in the getting started still, which is fine, by the way. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful models. Like, I have two lots of them painted up. I got two of those start collecting, so it was a great investment. Painted all of it up. Couldn't be happier with it. It's not that hard to convert a standard, by the way. Like, they come with spears. You just take a little flag and you glue it to the end of one of their spears. Ha! Done. See how easy that was? It's not the most complicated conversion you'll ever do in your life. So, just saying.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much discussion for this one. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I think that's way too complicated for me, but
Sure. Sure.
The
You know,
reason
they could
why
always
I-
left turn us, but that's what it is. Go ahead.
Somebody asked why, like, what part of the Chaos Knight is this? If you look at the old musician's horn,
Yeah.
it's almost identical to this, only it's like a less detailed, worse version of it.
Right. This
And
is
so
just,
this is
it's almost exactly this. This is just a like higher res, newer sculpt of the old Chaos Knight Hornblower. That's it.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is definitely Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So what's the rough idea when this type of stuff might be coming out, though? I didn't think this was on the horizon at all.
I mean,
12 to
it'll probably just
18 months.
release at some point. You know, like who knows? The multi-part kit wouldn't need to be something special along with the along with a book, right? They could just put out the hey, finally the multi-part kits. Like that stuff happens sometimes. So
Sure.
you know, because it wouldn't technically be a new
It could come
model
with a book. We haven't had any Tome Celestials, have we?
for Slaves to Darkness. I thought they did have their Tome Celestial. Yeah, they did.
Did they for third
Yeah.
edition?
Yes.
Yes.
What'd they get?
Nothing good.
Nothing of relevance. That's why you don't remember it. But it happened. We're not getting an S2D book anytime soon. So, but like, when could this thing happen? Yeah, I mean, I think Noops just summed it up well. Anytime between 2 weeks and 2 years. Like, some of our oldest rumor engines are almost 2 years old at this point. So, you know, like, but sometimes you'll see one and then 2 weeks later they'll do the pre-order for it. It's just, who knows, man? There's no logic to it. But
yeah,
yes.
these are.
Okay, what's next?
Event model orc.
Event model orc. Yes, let's talk about event model orc. So this guy, we saw him already because he showed up at LVO and was given away, but they hadn't officially announced him. So now here he is, in all his glory, I guess. This is the
is that considered an action pose?
He's got a stick.
But, like, is he slamming that stick down and, like, breaking a rock?
I think that's what's meant to be happening, yes.
Because I don't see movement other than the breaking rock.
Well, it's a very tiny rock.
Sure. I
definitely
thought that was like a plant or something.
Well, look, GW is not known for his OSL effects, right? So, I mean, it's not like that glow is really popping off there, as it were. Here we go. Paul, what do you think of Auric guy here? Do you like him? Blind guy with his weird eyeball headdress?
I actually do like the sculpt.
Okay.
Like, I don't dislike this. I think I might actually like it better than the regular shaman sculpt.
All right, fair enough.
Other than that, I mean, it's not something I'm going to run out and buy to paint.
Sure.
I mean, it's certainly not going to make me start a Crow Boy something.
Fair enough. Hooves, your take on this guy?
He's okay. It's not something that really grabs me too much, but I like just the fact that models exist. I can add them to my database and look at them. But yeah, it's not one I'm going to run out probably by myself.
Like it.
When is that database going live?
Do you know how much work it is to actually catalog every single GW model? Oh my god. I hope sometime this year. It might not be complete in its entirety, but I definitely need to get something out.
I agree. And even if it wasn't 100% complete, the reality is it'd be what your already categorical knowledge of these things should be shared with the world. That's all I'm saying. For those who don't know, Hooves has been working on a database of basically every GW model released with like year-end sculptor where you can get it. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's mostly just it's more like an image bank of individual factions.
Yep. So the image, the name of the thing, when it was released, who did it, if we know, because obviously GW doesn't always share their sculptors.
Yep.
And this seems an incredibly valuable resource because I don't think people realize just how many weird, one-off, and odd and different metal models they used to make, especially because the cost for those who aren't aware, like when models were mostly metal, the cost of a silicone mold is really cheap. I mean, you have to pay a sculptor to do it, but the cost of the mold itself is pennies by comparison to modern-day steel molds for plastic models, which can cost $50 to more than $100,000 depending on the complexity of and size of the mold. So like it's a decision to make a plastic model. They with silicone molds they can just be like, yeah, sure, do that, bang that one out for this thing or this thing. It just roll them out,
Yeah. It tracks things like models are named differently over many years, where things get named 3 or 4 different times, and just things like that.
Yep. Absolutely. Like a special character will become a generic character. We'll get a different generic character name. That kind of journey. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. Anthony said, yeah. Games Day models. Absolutely. There was so many different like things like that they would do. Yeah. Absolutely. So here we go with this guy. He's fine. That's my thing. He looks kind of like his skin is weird. He looks like, look at his leg. Do you see his like left leg? Okay.
Yep.
Doesn't that look like Kermit's legs in the times when you see Kermit's legs on screen? Right? The Muppet. Right? It does. Look at that leg and look at how it looks like foldy, like felt because of the way that it's been highlighted. Tell me that doesn't look like Kermit's legs. It does.
Maybe.
It does.
Maybe.
Thank you, Paul. I can tell you're a Muppets fan. Good man. All right.
I'm trying to deal with the hand, like the weird bone hand staff.
Oh sure. I can't cut across the knuckles.
Yes, like I can't not see that.
Okay, that's fine.
And just like see him like waving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. It's just weird.
All right, what do we got next?
Let's talk about those Warcry box sets.
Warcry box sets, pre-order now. All right, Tom, you were talking to me a little about these. So you're a fan of these. Sell us on these box sets, Tom. Explain to the folks at home why they're a good deal.
I mean, so you're getting for $80, you are getting $120 worth of models approximately.
Okay.
Now for like the Lumineth here, it's a little bit more complicated because you have to buy 2 boxes to realize that savings.
Sure, because you're getting like 5 Sentinels or 5 Wardens or something, right?
Right. Like 2 boxes of the Lumineth will get you 20 of the Cow guys.
You mean 10? It's because it's 5 each.
I'm sorry. Yes, it'll get you 10 of the Cow guys, 10 of the 10 Sentinels, and 10 Wardens. Which each of those boxes are $60. So that's $240 for $160 worth of boxes. And then you can normally get the normal discount stuff too. So like,
sure, it's
a really good discount. Also, if you play Warcry, these will have cards in the boxes and I believe tokens. Normally they do. And so these are what you need to kind of start a warband of these. This is how they're selling the cards now. And again, I mean, in the US, these are for $160. You're getting $80 worth of, or you're getting $80 worth of savings. So sure, it's actually a really good deal. I'm actually, I believe, ordering 4 of these Warcry boxes for Lumineth.
Okay.
So it couldn't be more perfect for me timing wise, just because it like fills out everything that I was looking for. And so it's a good deal. And there's stuff like this for Slaanesh, obviously, and some of the other armies. So what I will say is this: if any of this interests you, buy it now and buy it quick, because these Warcry boxes, once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah. Sure.
They don't keep them in stock. They don't keep them on the shelf. So if these are things that interest you, buy now.
What is the list of factions that they're releasing these for?
Oh gosh, what a good question. So, Lumineth, Slaanesh,
Doc,
yep, Daughters, and Stormcast. Is that all 4?
Stormcast.
Did I miss any of them?
And
there's
Cruel
5.
Boys.
Cruel Boys. Thank you. That's the other one. Yep.
Yep.
I forgot about them just like the writers of the book did. That's not fair. That's not fair. They're fine. They're fine. Yeah, I mean, these were when in their first go round, because it's not the first time we've had these Warcry boxes, right? And
right,
you know, the old version of them were a good deal. It seems like these are as well in many of the cases. Again, with the Slaanesh stuff, it's like you're buying for the future. There's no better time, I guess. Buy when the stonks are low. You know, making an investment in Slaanesh is just hoping for a really good third book. Steve said no cards sold separate. They haven't said so. I think that they're just relying on the tome
separate in like 2 years.
Yeah, because they're just relying on the Tome of Champions now because they keep updating
right,
things and changing points and stuff like that. So they didn't want to keep re-releasing the cards, which is fine.
Right.
Because the Tome of Champions is up at the same time.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, like these are pretty square on a deal. I mean, they are cheaper than retail already, and then the trick is because they're discounted in some way. If you then go and apply your normal discount to them of 20% or whatever you happen to get, suddenly you're kind of double savings, right? So that's the advantage of them. Is it like free models? No, but it's a good deal. So there you go. Is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm getting a good number of the Lumineth ones because, like, again, it fills out my army. But even like the there's like even Doc is a great one. Because basically it gives you, say what?
The Doc one's not bad, at least so we think at the moment. That's really a blind purchase though, because there's some stonk movement coming on those.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, the reality is this: you get 4 different kits with 1 box.
Sure.
Because you're getting both basically full sprues for Witch Elf and Sisters of Slaughter, both the Hunters and Stalkers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think that the boxes are pretty good.
I mean, my argument would be, I like them. I'm glad they did the Tome of Champions. Don't release third edition this year, or the next edition this year. Thank you. There we go. Just keep Warcry's fine. We don't need a new edition. We're all happy with it. Please stop. So none of that, and we'll be good. That's what I do
wonder. I do wonder how many people are actually buying these for Warcry.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, they sold a ton of them last time, and it was, a bunch of that wasn't, a bunch of that wasn't for Warcry alone. But I mean, whatever, it's fine. Okay, who cares if it's a cheap way to get stuff for your AOS or you use it in Warcry? I don't care. It's all whatever. Warcry's a good game. AoS is a good game. Models work in both.
Yep.
Thumbs up. So, there you go.
So I say, if this interests you, it's just always a better buy per dollar than buying a standard box of any of these models.
Right. It's just better than the normal kits. Yeah, you're getting out cheaper than that. That's it. It's that simple, right? Like,
yep.
It's less money. There we go, for the same product.
Right. So it's going on pre-order. Check it out. Also went up this week. It broke that Hatchet's new magazine AoS subscription for 3rd edition AoS is going to be starting soon. The first 4 issues are coming, and it is a lot of models, just like the previous one.
Yeah.
Vince, I love that you used the image that I retweeted.
Yeah.
Where the people were highlighting like the tabs of whoever.
Yes, I just cut the thing. Yes. The thing in question.
Amazing. Yeah, this is a really good deal. I got 80 chain rasps on the last round of subscriptions like this.
Yep.
Okay. That's a lot of chain rasps.
Yep. Like when I at like $10 a chain, basically $1 chain rasp is what it cost me.
Yeah, sure. Here's hoping gut rippers get better. Because man, you're gonna get you can easily pick up a ton of those boys on the cheap now. So yes.
Well, Vindicator as well, right?
Yeah, Vindictor, not Vindictor.
Whatever. They're all.
Everybody says Vindicator. It drives me nuts. Vindictor.
Vindictors, right. Yes. The key is this. It is UK right now.
Yeah.
Only. Last time there was a company that I found that would ship them to the US.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I ended up doing. That's how I got mine. But I don't know that that's happening. Although the Conquest, like the 40K one that just came out, there is a company doing US shipping for the 40K stuff. So I would assume maybe we'll get a US version that's slightly delayed 6 months or so.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this: if this is available for AOS, I will be a buyer. So
absolutely.
I mean, this is the way. You want to talk about cheap plastic? This is the way to get them pounds of plastic on the cheap. That is for sure.
Yep.
So,
yep.
They showed kind of the all-in thing, and it's a lot. Now it is across different factions as well. Right here, you see Stormcast and Cruel Boys, but there was other more just general order stuff in there and general destructionist stuff in there.
But a lot of that was for the premium upgrade.
I understand. I understand.
That's not for the in general. You're only getting Cruel Boys and Stormcast.
Yep, I'm just saying there is an option in there because then that one also includes, if you go for that version, it also has the terrain and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah, which is pretty sweet. Yeah. Which is pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be tempted if I could get this in the US.
Hades asked a good question. Is it plastic you really want? Is it worth the sub? For me, no. I wouldn't take it even if I could get it. Because I don't need gut rippers and Vindictors. I've got 20 Vindictors. I'm good for all time. I am happy with that. Done and dusted. I have my House Atreides fighters. I'm ready. I need nothing else, and I'm not collecting Cruel Boys because somebody else in our group is, and I have no interest in them. So, nope. But, you know, for people who might be looking to collect this stuff, this really is a great deal, a good way to get into it. So,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if I could get this in the U.S., I would for my son.
Sure.
Like for my kids, because these are like I can pick and choose the things that I want out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it I can just turn over to them to learn how to hobby on.
Yep.
So
yeah, this is like the cheapest way to buy models. Period.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I see. Okay, Hades clarified it's not just premium. It's Sylvaneth, KO, Stormcast versus Cruel Boys, Gloomskites, and the Gargant, not just the premium. The premium is extra stuff on top of that. Cool. Good stuff. Good clarification, Hades. Thank you. I thought all of that was in the premium, so thank you. But yeah, good deal. You know, I'll be interested to see if it comes over to the US. I hope it does. But if you're in the UK, hey. Thumbs up, I guess. Congratulations on your new Gut Ripper Horde. I have no doubt that the GHB 2022 will price Gut Rippers accordingly, and we'll get rid of the monster incentives and go to Horde incentives or something. Like, units of more than X many models get this bonus or something, and all of a sudden the Gut Ripper meta will start.
Could you imagine, like, we get to the new GHB and they're like, oh, by the way, everybody gets 4 additional reinforcement points.
Right, sure, yeah. Like, that could be what they do, right? It could just be the new season is the Horde season. Everybody gets some number of additional reinforcement points. And if a unit started with 20 or more models, all rallies now happen on a 5-up. Or something like that, right? That could be the thing. And somebody be like, whoa! Handbrake turn back into the Horde meta, baby. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it would not take much.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why. I mean, I collect a little differently than a lot of people. I kind of slow grow everything.
Sure.
Over time, and part of my reasoning for that is because I've been in this hobby long enough to know that everything that's good it will become bad, and vice versa. So.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. I always say the story of I have had my Skaven since 1998. And, like, they have been the best army in the meta and the worst army in the meta and everything in between over time, right? I've constructed them to be all clan rats and melee fighters and all shooters because it was the only ways to play them, and on and on and on. I mean, 25 years of Skaven. It's a lot of ups and downs.
Sure.
So, all right. Good stuff. Paul, do you like either of these armies? You looking for your Gut Ripper Horde?
Not really interested in any of these in particular, no.
Totally fair. They just fell flat for me as well. So I get it. All right.
They're going to be a great deal for somebody.
Yeah,
I just like cheap plastic. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that's where I am.
You both have that collector gene that you love.
No, for
You're
me
like
it's
Smaug.
the deal.
You like to sit on your pile and just paw at it.
It's not
for me.
big.
It's not the collector gene as much as it is the deal gene, where I'm like, man, that's a good deal, and I don't want to regret not getting that deal in 6 months. And at the end of the day, like, I know that I can just flip it on eBay.
Yeah.
So so there's no loss there. If I end up with stuff that I don't want.
I look at that in 6 months and go, man, I'm glad I didn't spend that money and now have to screw around with eBay. What a great day it is for me. All right. Let's talk about that Beast of Chaos. Why are we screwing around with anything else? Beasts of Chaos. Let's do this. The Tome of Champions. This thing we hate. Yep. I say that only partially in jest.
In Tome Celestial? Tome of Champions is Warcry.
Tome Celestial, thank you. I apologize. I was still in the Warcry thing. The Tome Celestial, thank you, Paul. Much appreciated. Live actualing, I appreciate it. I'm grateful. So let's dig into these changes, shall we? Because this is actually exciting stuff. Before we get into the specifics, we're going to do a quick around the horn. Here we go. Tom, excitement level 1 to 10 about the Beasts of Chaos changes. Go. 1 through 10. 1 being not excited, 10 being very, very excited. I'm collecting Beasts of Chaos tomorrow. Go.
11.
I love it. Paul, your number.
I'm going to go with a 3, just because I'm really not interested in Beasts of Chaos as a faction to play. If they got updated war scrolls that could slot into other armies, I would be very excited about it. But
they do. It's called Zinch.
Sure. Yes, classic enemy of Paul's favorite faction. Hooves of Doom with your Minotaur channel photo and intro picture. How excited are you about this 1 through 10?
I'm going for 12 here. I mean,
all right.
It's awesome. The only downside is that we now know that the book's going to be, way off. But
right. Okay.
No, it's awesome.
So we didn't get a book. We all wanted a Beast of Chaos book. But let's look at what we got. So first off, we get a change to the herds. Oh, go ahead.
So you mentioned, Skaven's had its ups and downs over the past 25 years.
Yes.
Has Beasts of Chaos / Beastmen ever had an up?
Yes, absolutely. There have been times where it's been quite formidable. Yeah. Mostly back in Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
I can't think of any time in AoS where it's been a formidable foe. But like in Warhammer Fantasy, yeah, there were some times when beasts were pretty good.
Yeah.
Famously, Once Bitten 360, ran a beast army to quite a bit of success. They were pretty they had some good play in various times in 6th and a little bit of 7th before the Demons book ruined all of 7th. So, how about that?
Yeah, I tend to think that there are some fantasy armies, even in AoS, that are generally always pretty good, like elves. Beastmen come and go.
Yeah, absolutely. They've always had an elf bias. Because so much of, just as an aside, so much of how they write their rules is top-down design. And so, in the verisimilitude of the world, high elves are just better than everyone, and they know it. That was the story. We're just better than you. They're just Globo Gym written into a faction. Yeah. So hence when people would write the rules, they would just always overdo them. Because they had to be better than everybody, faster than everybody, more skilled, more magic, better combat,
more intelligent,
better range. Just everything had to be better. And it's so funny to me because their story is they're haughty and smart and capable, certainly, but they're also dying and dumb and failed their entire civilization and are locked in an endless civil war, which does not speak to intelligence, by the by. So I disagree. But at any rate, we're not here to talk about stupid high elves. We are here to talk about Beastmen. A lot of comments about Beastmen. People are excited about this.
It's amazing how many players just completely came out of the woodwork on this one. It's just like everyone. I was like, oh my god, I play Beast of Chaos.
That meme came up. I'm something of a Beast of Chaos player myself. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's amazing what Ren 6 will do for you.
It'll get there. All right, let's talk about what we got. Herdstone. You set up the Herdstone in your territory 3 inches from everything like all faction terrain. Great. It's impassable. Also good. Fine. I'm glad they're making all these impassable so you stop trying to pile models on them, which was always the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Entropic Lodestone. Improve the rend characteristic of melee weapons. Melee weapons only. Sorry, Ungor Raiders. You lose again. But used by all friendly Beasts of Chaos units on the battlefield by 1. Your Rend 0, your Rend 1. Your Rend 1, your Rend 2, your Rend 2, your Rend 3. Good times. From the start of the 3rd battle round, improve the Rend characteristic of melee weapons used by all friendly Beasts of Chaos units on the battlefield by 2. 2! Instead of 1. That's right. Every little Ungor spear is now Rend 2. Is now a Fulminator. Has Fulminator Rend.
They are ready to do some work.
Yes. Good rule. Okay. And that's just obviously, it's if for existing. There's no range on that. It's just if the Herdstone's around. Locus of Savagery. After this terrain feature is set up, its range is 12 inches. At the start of each battle round after the first, its range is increased by 6 inches. So right off the rip, We got the improved range that I think a lot of Beast players in this chat and elsewhere had asked for. Please start at 12 instead of starting at 6.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But we lost some effect. Because if a friendly Beast of Chaos unit wholly within the range of this terrain feature takes a Battle Shock test, you have the number of models that flee, rounding down, instead of just making them immune to Battle Shock. Still good.
Yeah.
In addition, if a friendly Beast of Chaos unit wholly within range of this terrain feature receives the Rally command, you can return 1 slain model to that unit for each 4+ instead of each 6+. That is a big deal.
Yeah,
That's a lot of rallying.
For that one. Yeah.
You know what this says to me? Return
Potent on
of the
the double?
Zangor Skyfires.
Sure, yeah. Who can like zip back in and then refill their whole lot, yeah. Yeah, potent on the double as well, even for melee units, right? Because if you have a couple guys left and you retreat them out and then you pull the double, you can rally back a ton of them. Right? And I agree with Cinderfall, who says, having the loss is better overall game design than just being flat immune to Battle Shock. Completely agree with Cinderfall. I'd love it if many immune to Battle Shock effects were just made half run or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a shame to take an interesting mechanic and just, whatever. Okay, so the Hearthstone's pretty good. It's got some cool effects. Let's talk about upsides, downsides on this thing real quick. It can be set up in your territory. You may be tempted to put it toward the fore of your territory, like toward the forefront.
Right.
So that way that bubble is pushing out into the table farther. But of course, the risk if you do that is that all of a sudden some monster is going to come in and just smash to rubble your Hearthstone, and then all your precious rend is gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a big no. No, it needs to be like mid-table.
Yeah, I mean it's
Like
there's a
mid-field.
you're gonna like mid to backboard this now, and it has to have protection as well. Right? Like it needs to be bubble wrapped in some way, so people can't just come in and smash it away. And Steve, I agree with Belle. You should listen to Belle. She is wise, and you know this. You know she's smart. Listen to your wife. She is. This is a wise woman. So, okay. Yeah, I mean it's super cool, but it is susceptible to being smashed by monsters. So
yeah, it makes me want to do a Zangor army. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think my only note on this is that with the scenarios that we currently have in the GHB, most of the territories are just your deployment zone. So it's already going to be kind of backboarded anyway.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. If you think of something like First Blood, which is one of my favorite scenarios, you have a minuscule deployment area there, right? And if you truly backboard that means you're putting it like down here, where my pen is right now, in the corner, because your deployment area is like this, right? So it's like way back here. So that 12-inch to start is just going to not even barely escape your territory. It's going to be like round 4 before that thing is out there. So Tom's point about something like Skyfires or Enlightened on discs or something like that can retreat out of the midboard way back into the range, like
they can just sit back there and shoot. They can platform back there near the stone.
Yeah, their range isn't infinite, but yes, I understand your meaning. My point is things like Enlightened, even where you might be in melee, but if they need to retreat, they can zip back into it, no problem, right? Because they've got the speed to take advantage of the rally. So,
yep, I love it. Like I had been wanting to do Zangor for a long time. Like I don't know if you remember, like I had a bunch of Zinch. In fact, I sold all my Zangor to Who's because I gave up on them finally. Like doing something, but like seeing this, I'm like, I don't know, I could do a Zangor army.
Can we talk for a moment? I just want to talk about 2 comments that were left in the chat. Dan, what's up, Dan? Who said straight front and center against Night Haunt? Yep, that's often a safe bet if they don't have a Mega Gargant ally. No monsters to be seen there to smash that to rubble. Unfortunately, the ability you're getting out of the Rend is also the most useless against them. So all you have is the Battle Shock and Rally thing.
Yep.
Which is funny. So, yeah, very potent change, very interesting in what it gives us. It gives us our first actual Rend 4.
It's so punchy.
Yeah. Because anybody in the army who was Rend 2 such as Bulgor and stuff like that. There's a couple other Rend 2s hiding around. They'll shoot up to Rend 4 from round 3 on, which is funny, because we had Rend 3, we had Rend 5, didn't really have any Rend 4, despite that being the name of an existing club here in my home state.
Well, but with the new monstrous actions, you can get up there.
Well, we'll get there. Let's talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad you let us into this. Monstrous Rampages. Whoa. There's a whole new section of them. You can choose to do one of these with your monsters instead of your normal Monstrous Rampages. They are still Monstrous Rampages. It specifically says so in the text. Like, instead of doing a normal Monstrous Rampage, you may do one of these Monstrous Rampages. Okay. Your generic one that any monster can use is Primal Roar. Roll a die. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 through 5, you receive 1 primordial call point, your summoning points. And on a 6, you receive 3. Love this. I love this because it's something useful as a monstrous rampage to do with one of your monsters every round, even if they aren't in combat. Like if there's no one for them to actually roar or stomp or do one of these other things we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Somebody can just roar. Do this roar, Primal Roar. And boom, it's 3 points.
Yeah,
it's great.
Fair.
Okay. So, super good stuff there. I like that. Feast on Flesh. Only a Gorgon can be picked to carry out this monstrous rampage. And the same unit can carry out this monstrous rampage once per battle. Improve the rend characteristic of this model's melee weapons by 1 until the end of the following combat phase. In addition, the best 2 words in AoS. Until the end of the following combat phase, each time an enemy model is slain by an attack made by this model heals a number of wounds equal to the wounds characteristic of that slain model. That's quite a lot of healing.
Yeah.
If a Gorgon on 1 wound, who's fully ramped up on the rend, fights at the top of his profile with the Gur rules and goes in ham on some unit that he can kill a lot of, like a Horde unit or something, you know, like if he gets into his dream fight, getting into Sentinels or something, he's going to be back up at full at the end of that fight.
Yeah,
so, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. And that can obviously give him an additional rend. So that brings, that takes the Gorgon up to quite a number, basically, because he can be very rendy. He's got a lot of attacks, so good. Devour Spell. I'm not going to talk about it. It's for Cygors. It's not very good. You might use it occasionally if you have nothing else to do with your Cygor, but why did you take a Cygor? You've made a wrong choice. They were bad. They're still bad. This doesn't make them better. I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is the one opportunity to make them potentially good if I had a rescroll, like a whole new scroll. But
could have done something. Did not. Passed on that. Blew that opportunity by. So Cygors still bad. Good. But Gorgons could be interesting. I mean, this is a 155 point monster with a lot of attacks on Rend 4. I would point out that's like
yeah.
That ain't bad.
Yeah.
That ain't bad. This dude is swinging around a lot of Gul Miraz attacks for 155 points. Like, Rend 3 or 4, damage 3. That's a good profile for 155 points. Entropic Miasma. Only a Jabberslythe can be picked to carry out this rampage. Pick one enemy hero within 3 inches of this model and roll a die. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 through 5, worsen the save characteristic of that hero by 1. Until the end of the following combat phase. On a 6, worsen the save characteristic of that hero by 2. Until the end of the following combat phase. This doesn't do it for me. I don't care that much. It's okay. Against, like, big monster heroes, it's not bad. Against, like, some heroes can be protected too easily. But it's cool. It's effectively another Pippa Rend on all of this. But yeah, it's okay. It's just close. That's the problem. It's danger close, right? You have to have charged that hero or something very close to that hero. The advantage to it is, yes, as Hades points out, this does bypass Ethereal. Because this actually just worsens the save characteristic.
Yeah.
Which is good. My issue with it is Jabberslythes die fairly easy, and a lot of the monster heroes you might want to put them into, it's just going to explode on the swing back. But, as part of a combo charge or something like that, it's pretty good. You could get there. Like you bring him in, do this, except he's going to die, and then have the Bulgor go ham or something like that, or the Dragon Ogres go ham or whatever, or the Zangor. Okay. Thricefold Savagery. Only a Chimera can be picked to carry out this monster's rampage until the end of the following combat phase. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of this model's melee weapons, but all attack made with this model's melee weapons must target the same enemy unit. Okay, that's cool. I really like Chimeras. Go ahead.
That only in particular screws over Jack from rerolling once.
Correct. Who always splits his attacks. This is the anti-Jack rule. Get back, Jack. What I like about this is obviously the Chimera is a summonable thing for 10 primordial call points.
Yep.
And that's a great summon to just suddenly bring him in and then have this as an option. Because he does have a built-in +2 to charge as well. So he actually lands his 9 and charge pretty easily, which means you can, because he only actually needs to roll a 7. And then he can just pop in there. And suddenly that dude is that dude is rend a lot, by the way, depending on when you summon him up.
Yeah. It's a little steep in point wise, the actual model, but the one thing to realize about that is that there's like 3 or 4 attack profiles, assuming each of those gets 1.
Yep, correct. That is right.
That's a pretty nice boost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I really love Chimeras. Just I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but I own 5 Chimeras. I just think they're a cool model, so I have a lot of them. You are right that the Chimera, he has basically 4 melee profiles. Okay, each head, and then his claws.
Yep.
And the rend on the base avian head, the bird head, is rend 3. But it also diminishes. It's the diminishing profile item on there. And then the Draconic and Leonin head are both rend 1, but damage 2 and damage d6. This guy can do damage, and then his claws are kind of a nothing burger, but whatever. But the key is, because you now have access to more summoning points as well through the Primal Roar, assuming you have some monsters who can trigger that off, it is more likely that you can get the Chimera out fast, that he can land the charge, and then he can go do some serious work. Because he's going to be unwounded, hopefully, when he charges in. Assuming he doesn't eat an Unleash or something like that. So, all right. Any other thoughts on these, gentlemen?
I just like it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, overall, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take this out this weekend. I should be able to get a game in. I'm going to see if I can't get all my Gorgons and nonsense on the table. We'll give it a roll. See what happens. See how we like these rules. Got everything, so why not give it a play?
Let me know if you want to do Beasts for Havoc this year, Vince.
Sure. We're going to do a fun video probably at some point in the future about one of my Gorgons, but we'll get there. There are grand strategies and battle tactics. Yes, they exist. That is all I have to say about these. They shouldn't exist. Now I've said my piece. Okay. Anything else we want to talk about these? They're mostly bad to find.
No comment.
Yeah, exactly. These shouldn't be printed. They shouldn't be used. Please stop. Thank you. There we go. But good changes. Probably not everything we would want. There's still a lot of dead scrolls, even with these changes in there. But this does open up some play, especially in a high armor meta. Having an army of can openers suddenly hit the table matters. Even the Rend 1 on everything makes a lot of the Rend 1 units that are running around a lot more scary. Pushing everything in the army. There's a lot of Rend 1 dudes rolling around in this army.
Well, and this army inherently is decentralized too.
Sure. So
like it's just the whole table, right? Like, so okay, you're gonna drop down long strikes. Cool. What are you shooting? My Gors? Zangors? And anything you want, you can ambush off table. So it's a really interesting counterplay in this current meta. I think that there's going to be some strong lists that come out of it.
it'll be interesting to see if the combination of extremely cheap bodies, which, oh, we lost Paul. I'm going to guess Paul didn't find his charger and didn't plug his phone in. But we'll see. You can do 11 units of Dragon Ogres very easy. That and still have room for heroes, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You can do 10 units of Zangor, so that's 200 wounds.
Sure. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Well,
200 wounds of Ren 2/3, 5 up, 6 up ward, and rallying on 4+.
Yeah. So, we're talking about, by the way, when I say 11 units of Dragon Ogres as battle line, keep in mind that's with 2 Shaggoths, a Great Bray Shaman, and a Khorne Demon Prince in there as well as an ally. And still 11 units of Dragon Ogres. That's a lot of meat
it is.
to deal with.
Yeah.
So there could be play there. The decentralized meat strategy in a shooting meta. I don't know what the long strikes are shooting at. I suppose the Khorne guy. And then you're like, okay.
Cool story, bro. The one unit that you don't have to use against ranged.
Right, exactly, yes. Yeah. These dudes are all still coming. Paul, are you back? Let's see if he's back. He'll be back in a second, I'm sure. All right. And then, that just says that's just the Monstrous Rampage rules. So there we go. That's it. Is that the news? Are we done? Long news segment today. All right.
Some good stuff.
Sean said Be'lakor is an excellent ally to shut down key units. Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Be'lakor, the cranberry of the demon world. He just gets into everything. All right. Let's move on to some pick of the week. Hooves. What would you like to share with everybody? What's your pick of the week?
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched too much YouTube in the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to plug something that we kind of already talked about, but something that I'm really excited about. And we got the first few issues of the Imperium magazine in today, or last week actually. But I mean, it's just one of those incredible deals that you can definitely onboard at this point and get in on that if you like 40K, obviously. If you don't, then who cares? But it is you'll pay over about a year and a half, 80 issues. You pay something like $1,000. You get about $2,000 worth of product. Of course, an idiot like myself does premium, so you get even more models because I'm fairly addicted to plastic. And if you want premium, you have to sign on by the end of February. So that's what I would point to if you have an interest in onboarding, because I know that there's always contention about how expensive this hobby is, and when GW raises prices, people get a little annoyed. I get that. This is the cheapest way you can buy models, so it's always a good deal for me.
All right, sounds good. I love it. By the way, Autumn, yes, it sucks that there's no Path to Glory stuff. At least that they didn't share here. I don't know if there's more that's not here. I don't know if it's not in the book. These are the only 3 pages. It's a 12-page article, so I don't know if there might be Path to Glory that's just not in the shared images. That could also be. So, there we go. Tom, your pick of the week. What would you like to share with everybody?
We have guests. I don't have picks.
You have guests. I don't have picks. Okay, got it. All right. Fair enough. That's fine. I see how it's doing. So what you're saying is you've watched nothing, engaged with nothing. You don't want to maybe direct everybody to follow, the Holy Wars GT or Holy Hammer Hearn on Twitter to align with our show, something like that.
No, you can find them on your own. We're going to talk about them a whole lot.
Okay, got it. Fair enough. Well, I think you should all follow that, as we'll talk about. Okay, so my pick of the week is, we were just talking about piles of plastic and shame, and our good buddy John Ninus had a whole video where he unpacked everything that he has hidden away in his pile of shame that he stashed all around his basement, and it will make you feel better about your pile of shame is my argument in probably most of anyone's cases except Hoops, who will still look at that and go, noob. It's nothing. Oh, there we go. Paul's back. Oh, you got some mood lighting there.
Yeah, I don't know. My connection, I was in my basement and my connection suddenly was really bad and I don't know why. But I'm here. I moved back upstairs. So now I got some mood lighting. I got some nice flowers in front of me that I got from my wife for Valentine's Day. And, yeah, and hopefully my phone doesn't die.
Well, there we go. Let's hope so. Hopefully you're on a full charge. Always keep your phone at 100%.
No, not even close.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. All right. Paul, do you have a pick of the week you'd like to share with everybody? The Ninjon video is linked below, by the way.
So a little bit of an unusual one. We have Total War Warhammer 3 coming out like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And there was just a like playthrough like stream that Potato McWhiskey did earlier today. That was, like a nice preview of the game. So definitely would recommend checking that out. And his channel in general, if you're into those sorts of games.
Very nice. Hades is also shouting out our good buddy Haywo Twitch, who's going to apparently do a stream tomorrow playing ogres in Total War Warhammer 3. So nice.
I saw that. Cool.
So, our good buddy Haywo Twitch, you can find him at Haywo Twitch on Twitch because he's Haywo Twitch. It'll be a good time. Haywo. All right, so awesome. Let's talk about some hobby time. Well, obviously, our shared hobby collectively this weekend was playing in a tournament, which took up a lot of time. But, Hooves, have you got anything painted since you came back or before? Did you do some emergency painting before the tournament? How about that?
Well, I painted up my Maggot Kin of Nurgle in the last couple of weeks of January, so that whole army was painted up pretty quickly. Eager to go back to some Black Templar I was working on, and then eventually finish off my Beast of Chaos collection. But in the meantime, I'm putting together some Varangard because I decided just on a whim to make like the hosts of the Ever Chosen army. So I have 12 Varangard and Archeon, obviously, but so that's gonna be kind of fun.
All the Varangard, the swords of Archeon. Very nice.
That's right.
I like it. Okay. Paul, did you do any hobby either before or after the tournament? There he is.
Oh, woot. The Nurgle version.
Yeah, exactly. This is my Archeon that I've been working on for a while. Shout out to Vince for providing one of the Nurgle heads for the conversion, and the other one came from Oscar Lars. Nice. So shout out to you guys, and an extra shout out to Kathy for actually managing to get the one from Vince to
in the mail. Yeah, it was completely my wife. You're absolutely right. She receives all the credit for that because you asked me, do I have it? And I was like, yeah, I'm never going to use it. You're more than welcome to it. And then like 2 weeks later, you said, did you actually send that thing? I was like, no. So I like put it in a little bag and gave it to my wife. And I was like, can you please ship this to Paul? Do you need his address? She's like, I've got it. It's fine. She handled it. So she's a rock star.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Well, yeah, it's coming along awesome, Paul. Love it, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick your brain for some technical questions on it later because I'm not sure how I feel about the wings, but it's coming along. Feel pretty good about the body of it, and Archeon himself, I like how he came out. So you might need a little bit more work on the cape, but the task right now is figuring out how to make the wings not look crappy.
It is the big challenge on that model. It's a big part of it.
Yeah,
Tom, did you work on anything this week?
Yeah, so in addition to my Lumineth, which I finished up last week for Havoc, I am branching into a new career. Maybe we'll see. I've started commission painting, and I am working on a 40 block of Splintered Fang that I'm hoping to finish up this week. And they're coming along fine.
Very nice. Well, my hobby time is going to be short and sweet because I've done a lot of painting and I can't talk to you all about any of it. So there we go.
Amazing.
Yeah, good times. But I was happy to see that article go up today with that Imperial Fist guy, Fafnir. Fafnir, that's his name because it sounds like a joke. Fafnir ran, which was a super cool model. So that was fun to paint, and yeah. But hopefully eventually I'll be able to paint some of other things that I can talk about. We'll see. All right, gentlemen, shall we turn to discussing a little bit of tournament stuff? Should we get into some tournament stuff? I think we should. Okay.
I agree.
Nah.
Let's talk about the main subject here. Let's bring up the Prezzo. Ba-boom. Tournaments. What makes them good? Here I have a picture of our game, our showdown. This is early in the showdown between the four of us. So the four of us just recently this weekend attended Holy Wars, which is a tournament in Naperville, Illinois, run by the one and only Steve Herner, a Titan, a hobby hero. If he hasn't already won the Hobby Hero Award, he should.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. For those who don't know about this tournament, which we're going to talk about tonight, I'll just give you some quick basics and understanding. This is a team tournament, not like two players on a team playing together. For this, you effectively had 1,500 points, but it's a little funny, but I won't get into the details. But just know that each player had 1,500 points-ish. And so effectively it's 3,000 points against 3,000 points. All in. You weren't allowed to share certain things, like you couldn't both take the same universal artifact and spell and stuff like that. And Steve's tournament is notable for being a hobby-focused tournament that has, a lot of hobby prizes and stuff like that, but also being a very challenging tournament where the tables play as much as either of the players. Terrain and the tables are a huge focus. Steve has 18 custom tables that are all gorgeous, and we're going to look at some of those in a little while so you can all get a glance at what these are. And Steve said, nope, he hasn't won. Well, Steve, that is an injustice. An injustice, I say. You deserve it. You are my hero. And
I think we should literally start a petition.
I agree.
He should.
The thing about this event is not only is it hobby focused, but also the tables are very interactive in the game. It doesn't use any of the standard missions. Each table has its own sort of mission that's on it. When you go to play at that table, it has its own unique mission. So everybody's kind of doing, each round, everybody's kind of doing a version of the same thing, but it's different. Every table has its own sort of set of objectives.
Yep.
And Steve runs 2 tournaments every year, both team tournaments. Holy Havoc is the one in the fall, which should stay 1,000 points, Steve. Okay. So, the tournament itself is just so unique and different, interesting. And it was really fun, and Tom and I got to talking about this on the way back, because Tom and I did 2 tournaments back to back the past 2 weekends. So we did Brewhammer the weekend before, which was here in my hometown in Ohio. And it was a great tournament. It was a great time. It was their first year running it. But it was what I would think of as a more standardized tournament, right? Now, again, this is their first year. They're still going to find their voice, their identity as a tournament, right? So please take nothing I'm saying as judging Brewhammer negatively in any way. But it just was an interesting contrast between the two. I mean, I will be going back to both of these events next year. That is the best endorsement I can give, right? Is I liked both of them. I had a fun time with both of them. I will pay them both money again to participate in these next year. But it was an interesting contrast between the two. And I think that's what made us want to explore this. Tom, is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. It's just there's part of it what came about was because we talked about how the holy events are just such a singular experience, so much so that they have their own it is not like any other event. Like a lot of events you go to, there are things that you would go to and you expect the same types of things. And that's not the case with the holy events. And in fact, like what teased this out for us, by the way, was that battle tactics aren't a part of the experience.
Right. Right.
And we realized that they may actually be bad for the game.
Yeah. Let's do a quick round robin. Here we go. We got 4 people who participated in this tournament. Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, did you enjoy not having to choose battle tactics at the start of each turn?
Yes.
Paul?
Absolutely.
Hooves?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I agree. Like, there's 4 for 4. I don't know what else to tell you. That's a small survey. It's not scientifically... It's not statistically significant. But, like, it was great. I was like, oh, this thing I don't have to worry about anymore. I just get to play the game. And because the tables are already so active and you're trying to go different places on them to do different things, you didn't feel like you were missing anything.
No.
Right.
And it was fascinating that you, like, that there was another type of, like, secondary objective mechanic in play that was kind of like the best thing to describe would be like a grand strategy that's changing every round.
Yep.
And that gave its own activity. And so, like, in general, I didn't miss battle tactics. And so that's part of what brought this about was we're like, not only did we miss battle tactics, like, are they bad? Like, are they not good for the game and the game experience? And we got to talking about, like, how the game experience was just so different at the Holy Event and how that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, tournament basics. Here's some summary thoughts for everybody. I'm gonna list my summary thoughts. Most players will never go to a tournament, which is a shame. So, Goonhammer put together a pretty fascinating survey. I don't know if you all saw Rob, Honest Wargamer Rob, did a show on it. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know his coverage, but I saw he did a show on it. I did read the Goonhammer article. They surveyed a bunch of people there in their audience. I think their N was 3,000 some or whatever. Mm-hmm. Great feat. So that's great response on this thing. And now their audience is mostly 40K players, as they self-identified in the results, right? But they walked through a set of calculations in the article, and their best guess was something like 0.4 or 0.6% of players of the game will ever go to a tournament. Okay. That's just like all in versus the sort of worldwide audience, right? For the game. And obviously they had to reconstruct that from some pretty interesting different sources, but it feels true to me, is what I'll say. Like, there's my gut sense of the thing, right? And I think that is a shame. Part of the reason I also wanted to do this show was because to both talk to TOs and encourage people to run tournaments, but also to talk about how tournaments can be more than just, I think, how people perceive them. Right? Like, I think the image of most tournaments is of sort of whack players all killing each other with the hardest lists.
Yeah.
Right? And at basically every event I've gone to, that's not the case. Now, there is a set of hard lists usually there and hard players usually there, and they're basically the people who are on the top 5 tables. Right? In any given cohort. Whereas most other people at that tournament are people bringing a list that they enjoy, that they wanted to play, who just wanted to have a fun weekend of 5 games and go 3-2 or something like that. That's kind of their goal, right? Mm-hmm. Paul, what do you think? I mean, you've done a fair amount of like tournaments around in your area as well and other places. Does that ring true to you?
Definitely on the issue of like how many people actually go to tournaments. Out of my like local play group, we got like just as an example, we had 22 players in our last Path to Glory League at our local shop.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of those people, I am the only person that regularly attends GTs.
Sure.
And there's one other person that has gone to a couple. Like that speaks volumes to how many people there are out there that are playing the game that are not going to these big events. And even, when we're playing our normal games on our normal Wednesday game night, unless there's something like Path to Glory League where these guys can play smaller games, like they're just not showing up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my sense at most of the tourneys is that there's certainly some tough players there, but most of the time those tough players are still really nice people. And it will give you a good game. They'll kick your teeth down your throat. Like, they will win. Okay. But I can only think of, as I've always said, I can really only think of one actually bad game I've ever had at a tournament. And that was against Tom, so that doesn't even count. Okay.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, sure. Like, in general, most of the people you play with are just fun and happy to be playing Warhammer, right? And somebody asked in the comments, I heard that AoS tournaments are a lot more chill than 40K. The players are more just cool. As someone who's new to the hobby, it seems an easier start. And my answer is yes. That is true. Like, as I've said on this show many times, the average Warhammer Age of Sigmar player is a 35-year-old dad. Okay.
I resemble that, Mark.
Yes, I understand.
I might be a couple years older.
Yes. Tom, is it your birthday tomorrow?
It is my birthday tomorrow.
Everybody wish Tom a happy birthday. Everybody hit like for Tom. You're not going to send him a birthday gift. Hit like. Tell Tom happy birthday by hitting the like button. Boom. There we go. That's the connection I've been looking for. Okay.
Not only is it my birthday. No, don't sing. We'll get demonetized. Not only is it my birthday, I'm actually turning 40 tomorrow.
You are. Yes,
boy.
indeed.
Yeah.
People have to hit like for that.
A new decade. A new season in my life. It's going to be great.
We're all excited for you, Tom. So everybody should hit Tom on Twitter and wish him happy birthday or whatever. Or just hit like now or put it in the chat or in the comments. Tell Tom happy birthday. Make him feel special. Turning 40 is a big moment, obviously. So there you go. My just perception of tournaments, especially once you're in the mid tables, is that it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of people playing good, what we classically call middle table Warhammer, right? Where it's not the hardest list. It's people playing stuff they have, stuff they like, the units they want to run, the armies they want to run, just having a good time. And that's tournaments. That's 90% of what's going on at every tournament. So I just want to try to have people say, check it out. Like, I mean, Miniac did a video on this. This was his perception, right? The tournaments were just whack people, and he went to a tournament. That was for, what was it for? A Song of Ice and Conquest, Fire, War, or something. I don't know what that game is, but it's for one of those rank and flank games. And he went there, and he was really surprised. He had a great time. He met cool people. It was very fun, and he made a whole video about it. Like, there you go. So, that's what I'll say. Yeah, it's just not most tourneys. But I submit to you that beyond just the average tournament, that there is a better tournament. Those with a soul. And how do you find the soul of a tourney? You look at the pack, you look at the awards they have on offer, you look at the tables, and you look at the size of the tournament. Okay? Let me break that down a little bit. 1, the pack tells you most everything you need to know about what that tournament's all about. Right? If there are unusual rules changes or things going on, like if you look at Steve's pack, it's very different than most tournaments packs.
Yeah.
Right? In a big way.
Well,
by the way,
it doesn't even go public until like days before the event.
Right, sure. But the pack will communicate a lot about what the event is like. But that is to say, the army building pack goes live far before that, obviously, Tom.
Yeah.
And that tells you a lot about sort of the way that the tournament's constructed. Are you not playing 2,000 points? I think of like Brew City Brawl, right? Or not? Is it Brew City? No, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't been there. Yeah, Brendan runs that at 3K, right? I'm not wrong. Mm-hmm. I got to get up there sometime, but he keeps holding it in the middle of winter in like Wisconsin. I don't know what that's a bad combination. So the pack says a lot about what the tournament organizer feels the thing is about.
Yeah.
The awards say a lot about what it's about. You know, if you see lots of hobby awards, that tells you kind of something, just as if you look and see there's a best overall, a best general, a best in each faction, or best in each, Grand Alliance. Right?
Yep.
Okay, this is a more battle points focused tournament. Right? There's nothing wrong with any of this. I'm not making a normative judgment. I'm just saying look at this to determine if it aligns with where you are and the experience you want to have. You can read what you need to read, where you understand what you need to understand without ever going to the thing. Look at the tables. If people have run the tournament before, look at the tables in the event. Right? Look for pictures from that event. You know, I saw some pictures over the weekend while we were having an amazing time on these gorgeous tables that Steve has put an unreasonable amount of effort into. I was looking on Twitter at a tournament in the UK where the table was just a flat nothing with like four dispersed nothing pieces of terrain. And I was like, nope. Never. I just wouldn't go. That's not a table. No effort was expended there. Like, I know it's hard. Getting terrain as a TO is one of the hardest things you will do. It's costly. It's exceedingly time consuming.
Storing it.
You have to store it. It's a pain from top to bottom. And you know what? Yeah. Which then leads me to my next point. Look at the size. And here's my most controversial point. The bigger the tournament, often, but not always, the less of a soul it will have. Okay? Because when a tournament hits a certain size, 200 people plus people, it's just hard to generate, for a TO to generate that amount of unique terrain, to generate that amount of experience. Things almost have to be very standardized because you have such a wide swath of people coming. Right? You don't want it, which by the way can be a benefit. Like, we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's often difficult. It just kind of becomes generic large tournament. Right? And honestly, those are the ones that interest me personally the least. Maybe that's not true for you. Because if you are someone who's looking to test your skill against a wide field, and you look at the size of a big tournament, and you know there's going to be a lot of really strong players there, then that is some place you should go. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. What you're looking for in that case is the standard experience. Right? That's going to let you test your skill. Skill against skill. Right? But you can read a lot from the size of it. Okay. Those are my points. What do you guys think? Hooves, what do you think of the summary? Is anything you would disagree with?
No, I in general I would agree with pretty much everything. I mean, the whole, especially the I've been to Havoc a couple times. I've been to Holy Wars. I've also been to a smattering of other tournaments, and the Holy experience is definitely unique and fun and very much original. You don't get that pretty much anywhere else. And I think that's what makes it really special. But there's not to say that other people couldn't channel tournaments into completely different avenues or push other elements of it and create something unique elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Raw events over in the UK, right? That's a great example of a completely different take on a narrative event. At Nova, they run an incredible narrative event where, in between games, there's scheming and people switch teams and there's all this crazy stuff going on. It's because it's effectively DM'd, right? Like dungeon mastered, game mastered. So there's lots of different takes on this. And by the way, I'm not, again, just to be super duper clear, I'm not making an evaluative judgment on saying one of these is better than the other. Okay. What I'm saying is they are all different. And there are lots of different forms this can take. And there's probably one out there for you. Right. Regardless of the experience you're looking for, you just got to figure out what's that tournament experience that you want to have. Paul, what's your thoughts?
I definitely agree. And I've been to a decent number of tournaments. I've been to a bunch of different ones, not just like the same ones over and over again. And I've definitely found that, like, yeah, the bigger they are, the more standardized they feel.
Yeah.
And like, there's one in particular that I've been to a number of times now, Du Bois in Rochester, New York. And I went to the first one I went to was 2017, I believe, and I've been like every year since, with the 1 year off for COVID. And the tournament's grown from like 30 something players to like over 100. And over that time, you could see that like the way the terrain rules were changed, what the prize structure was changed, the players that it was attracting changed. It went from being just another GT to now it's an ITC event, and so it attracts people for that. And I don't mean this in any way as saying anything bad about the event. It's one of my favorite tournaments that I go to.
Sure.
But it's changed and evolved over time as it's grown, and it follows this pattern that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's just almost a natural evolution that happens, right? As a tourney grows large, the TO has to just sort of mass produce terrain, create more standardized tables, create a more standardized experience, because there's going to be such a wider swath of people who aren't just sort of people who very carefully self-selected into this, right? Like, they've got to, if they are going to do this, they got to sell 200 tickets. So they got to appeal to a mass audience, right? It's no different than if you make an indie movie. If you're A24, you can throw a couple million in an indie movie and tell a weird story, right? But if you're Marvel, you gotta hit 4 quadrants here. There's just no choice to it. You need to make $1 billion or whatever, right? Okay, Tom, what about you?
Yeah. So what I would say, one of the things that strikes me is that it is like, I don't want this to be an evaluative statement, but there's a sense in which the question is what is the experience you're going for? And I think you've continued to use language of tournament, and even the title, is the question: what makes a good AoS tournament?
Sure.
And my pushback would be, I don't like that language.
Okay. You want something like event?
I would rather say event,
okay.
Because I think a tournament is one subsection or a set of experiences within the range that we're talking about.
That's a good note, actually. I like that. Because
the tournament is more of the battle point focused. And so when people talk about tournaments, oftentimes they're invoking this ranking structure and this contest of generals and stuff like that. And if that's what you're looking for, awesome. Bless you. And I'm glad that we have a system out there that's there. But to me, what I love is the experience that we had this weekend.
Yeah, sure.
Which is not that. Just to give you a glimpse, the Holy Wars, at this point in its history, it went through its own set of evolutions, right?
Yep.
It moved from a largely mimicking a standard tournament, single player, to now Holy Wars is a team event where you self-select your next opponents.
Right. You can grudge any round, basically.
You grudge every round. Mm-hmm. It's random initiative as to who gets to pick either your table or your matchup if you're not grudged. And what's interesting is for those that want to like win on battle points that are chasing after that trophy, they end up headhunting the other teams that are ranked high.
Right. Well, and another interesting point there is you couldn't do that system at a very large tournament.
Right.
It has to be relatively small.
Right.
Because the matchup time would just take forever.
Right. But I mean, Steve, this was I think he had 18 tables set up. There were some drops. And so, it ended up being less than 50 people. But the reality is that it's like the format was conducive to something like that. And it created this very unique, very sweet experience. Yeah. And so I think that so when we talk about events with soul, I think part of that is the question of like, what is the unique thing? What is the identity of the event? And I think a lot of that sits in awards. Like, what are the incentive structures that the event organizers have put in place? And that's being communicated to the players of what they want to see the players doing.
Yep.
And I think that that's beautiful to really, to lean into that. And so but you can still have tournaments that have soul.
Absolutely.
Hear me. And so 100%. This isn't just tournaments versus like narrative events or whatever. No. Because I think about NashCon. NashCon is an excellent picture of this. NashCon was pushing 100 people with COVID and drops. I think they were mid 60s, 70s this year. And it is a standard tournament. The difference is that it's a 2-list format.
Right.
So it has an identity that is very distinct from other events.
Well, and David also, as a hobbyist, has a lot of hobbyist type awards as well. There's more than one sort of hobby award, right? But there's also a good number of battle awards. Like, it's a wide swath of awards there as well, right? There's lots of things to play for. He had a special award for who killed the most monsters. That kind of thing, right? There was lots of ways to engage with NashCon. So not only was it the 2-list format, different than that standard, right? But it also, exactly what you said, the awards, the incentives it created, like the guy who was hunting monsters and killed 20 monsters over the course of the tournament to win that prize. 20 monsters!
Think about
I want to lock that in everybody's head. There are 5 rounds in a tournament. That means over the course of that tournament, that dude killed an average of 4 monsters per game. That guy was on a mission. Okay?
Not one he could control, right? It's likely what happened is he had 2 Suns matchups and he's like, oh, I'm going to get this.
Yeah, sure. But there were still 3 other matchups. He just had to go, every monster on this board will definitely be dead by the time this game is over. Right?
Right.
And so, my point is that you're absolutely right. Like, that's a more traditional tournament, but it still has an identity, right? There's things that are being done there. It has a feel to it. Let's talk about, so that's a great transition to talk about standardization. So should tourneys act alike? I think this is pretty simple, but I want to talk about the benefits and downsides of standardization, okay? The benefit of a standardized format and set of rules is that we can track a larger set of data, understand the challenges and inequities in the game from a data-driven perspective, and players can rely on knowing what they are going to experience. There's no downside surprises. Right?
Right.
There you go. Assistant ref says he saw that 14 cockatrice list and was like, this is my lucky day. Yeah, exactly. If only that person had been there. Oh boy, oh boy. There was that list wasn't there. Like, there is a value to this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To a standard experience, to being able to match your skill. Now, I don't list in here in any way, and this is personal bias, so this might be worth a point of discussion, but I don't list in here the idea of having player rankings or anything like that. I couldn't care less. I'm sure some people do. I don't know why. What I mean by that is, like, I'm sorry about whatever other shortcomings in your life you might have that you feel the need to justify this. But, like, you're a good person out there. person in the audience who might care about this sort of thing. I believe in you. You're a worthwhile human being. You don't need to be 7th in whatever to justify value as a human being. You were perfectly fine. Okay. So I don't we have lots of ways. Society is all just measuring ourselves against others. I'm not sure I need to see that in my fun hobby wargaming, or that it breeds a healthy community, is my point. I don't think the downsides are worth it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my personal take. Tom? Thoughts?
I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh.
I understand. That was the soft version of that. I've been thinking about this for 3 days.
No, that's fine. I think if that, for some, that's the experience they want. Okay. And if that's what you want, I don't want to yuck your yum. And there's a lot of events out there that are beginning to cater to that. I mean, GW itself has bought into a support system, right? That it will be able to deliver that experience. But I think that there is a broader, more beautiful, non-standardized world that we can also embrace. And I would love for us to look for opportunities to facilitate that.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, the two things I listed here as positives, I do believe in. So having standardized tournaments that allow for aggregate data to be collected that can drive development and balance of the game is a good thing. Full stop. Okay? That's, to me, an overwhelming positive, because everybody benefits from that. People who never go to tourneys benefit from that. Right? Because they get better books, better balanced books, better play experiences on the table, etc., etc. That's positive. It's a big positive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But, I don't need to know who the 3rd-ranked KO player in Kansas is. Or whatever.
Because they traveled to more events, or because
of however, whatever, yes. System being game nonsense.
Because priority ended up working out for them in a handful of instances, or whatever.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Now, and by the way, having an experience that people know, they're going to hey, I played the game a bunch. I know how to play the game. And then they show up to the tournament, and that's how the game plays. Right? That's valuable. Especially for lower information players. So they don't have to learn a whole new subsystem that might lay on top of some of these events. Which can be scary and intimidating. So, totally fair. Okay. And so, yeah, exactly. What Gareth is saying. And I agree with that, right? That's why I'm saying the standardized experience is super valuable, Gareth. I agree. Because I know how to play the game, and then I show up, and, that's the game we're playing. It matches my experience. Right? This is a good thing. That's undoubtedly a good thing. And if you're going to deviate in some way, you better be clear about it in the pack. And really explain what's going on in a way that makes it clear to a lower information player. Otherwise, you're just setting people up to have a bad time.
Right, and that's what event packs are supposed to do, is clear that gap.
Yep. And so I think there is real value to the standardization, right? In these two cases, but there's a downside to it as well, which is sometimes we can lose the soul of the events, right? Different tourney formats can allow for different lists, different types of armies, different play styles, different people to come to the fore and to have participate in a way they might not otherwise do.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit, but because of the nature of Steve's tables crushing so hard, because the tables take such an active role in the game, a lot of the things that would normally be good in AoS are just not. They're just not. In the holy events. Death Star units or long strikes are a great example. That's a terrible unit on Steve's tables. Those are dead. the table will just kill them. There's not enough wounds there. The point to wounds ratio is way off, right? And those guys are just dead. Not to mention there's so much big, giant terrain on Steve's tables. Like, Steve has real line of sight blocking terrain that actually has those rules. So not only does it physically block line of sight, but much of it actually has a rule that blocks line of sight. Like, Steve uses real line of sight blocking rules. He uses effectively a version of the terrain pack we had talked about. Right? So your stupid Sentinels could certainly be cheaty. But something like Long Strikes, you're taking those and you're really hoping. You're hoping they don't die to the table. You're hoping they don't die to some weird ambush rules that every army suddenly inherited on the table you're on. Right? You're hoping they actually have a shot they can resolve on anything valuable. Right? So all of a sudden a whole, like, the highest battle point list other than us was at the Holy Event was a Beast of Chaos list.
Double Beast of Chaos.
Double Beast of Chaos. That was a ton of Dragon Ogres and Minotaurs.
And they weren't using, by the way, they weren't using the new rules, obviously.
No, this is without Tome of Champions.
Amazing.
I keep saying it. Without Tome Celestial. Okay. But they just had the bodies to go play the game, to play the tables, to play the scenarios. Right?
And summoning and mobility and all this.
Yeah, exactly. So it allowed very different things to come to the fore, right? Which was cool. Paul, what did you think about this? Since this was your first time at this event, did you feel that? I mean, you guys ran double Nurgle. We'll talk about your games in a little while. Yep. But how did you, like, Nurgle is more or less seen, I think, as a pretty mid-table army with a few strong, maybe competitive veins and some here or there. But you guys did great.
Yeah, we went 4-1.
Yeah. You were 4th place overall as a team.
Yep.
Did a great job. How did it feel playing like the Nurgle army? Did you feel the resiliency? Did it feel like good on those tables? Like you could do what you wanted to do, so on and so forth?
It felt like against the tables, it definitely felt less resilient than it feels against everybody else's armies.
Yeah, because since he has super wounds that punch through your save, yeah.
Yeah, when the table is dealing out, holy wounds that, you don't even get a ward save against, and then you're just hoping to have just sheer wound count to soak everything up, which, I think we kind of had. I think we were at 211 wounds for our 3,000 points. But yeah, I mean, it was a really interesting, different tournament or event. Really, event is the more appropriate word because it's really not a traditional tournament at all. It has realigned for me like how I look at all other events and where I want to put my time and energy and money into going to events.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And that really goes to my last point, which is different events, different tourneys can emphasize different aspects of the game. The hobby, the narrative, the community, all are present. But again, those can be brought to the forefront. And that's all valuable, right? By the way, none of that is to diminish the ones that are just valuing, again, the contest as sort of generals. But I'm also not worried about them. They're the majority. They're out there. They're going to always be out there, right? We're going to always have that as an option. And those have value, great value. See positives I just talked about. Right. So my argument is basically here, I like variance as value. And so like I have here highlighted McDonald's as a reference. All right. Here's what I mean by that. You go to McDonald's more or less anywhere. Again, I understand sometimes they have regionalized offerings on their menu, so you can actually me all you want. I'm aware that different McDonald's in different corners of the world, different parts of the world have unique elements on their menu. But McDonald's whole thing is it's meant to be a standardized experience. Like if I'm eating McDonald's here in my hometown and then I drive to California or somewhere else in the country or go up into Canada or over in the UK, when I was down in Australia and we got some Mackies, it's the same. It's a standardized experience. I know what I'm going to get. Nothing bad about it. It's quite delicious, actually. I don't eat it much anymore, but God knows it's good. but I'm not eating it all the time, right? Like, variance has value. And I think that the U.S. right now has a lot of variance across geographies. We're going to be talking soon with some West Coast people who I have a real blind spot for out there. The West Coast scene. I have my perceived biases of the West Coast scene, but we'll see what it's like. So we're going to have an interesting discussion about that. But right now, the U.S. has a lot of variance across the geographies. I'm sure other countries do as well, although I don't know their individual scenes as much. And individual TOs can shape the flavor of their tourneys, their events, which is what I want. And I want to see variance. I want to see variance amongst things like the prizes. We talked about NashCon. We talked about the holy events, right? Tables, points and format, altering the points values, making it teams or other formats. You know, the big popular thing over that I know Honest Wargamer Rob pushes a lot is the sort of 4-player team format with a captain, right? So what the sort of, I guess, WTC or ETC or whatever those organizations are called, holds zero interest to me. Zero. Flat out could not care less about the whole thing. And it seems like an insane way to play Warhammer that only Europeans would think of. Okay. But they love it. And again, I'm not going to yuck their yum, like, despite my previous joke I just made. It's very popular and people do like it. And great. I'm glad that those events are out there and offer that experience, because there are different kinds of competitive experiences too. Those have value in the same way. Right? So, all right. Tom, did I miss anything there on this?
No, I was going to make a joke about the team event being the Olympic equivalent of curling, but we'll just move on.
Paul, any thoughts?
I think there's overall like a place for everything, and I think the TOs and other event organizers out there need to look at the demand for different event experiences and, you know, offer up things that are appropriate for what people are looking for. I think there are just not enough events out there that are doing something different, you know, that it doesn't have to be anywhere near the level that Steve puts into his events. You know, it could be something as simple as, well, our event, you know, we're going to use some different terrain rules that are more impactful, or we're going to just put some specific terrain rules on tables. We're going to have a different list format. We're going to have restrictions on list building. We're going to have a 3,000 point list instead of a 2,000 point list. We're going to have a 2 list format. We're going to have a teams format, you know, just have more options out there available. I think there's a lot of things that, you know, we have this expectation of, you know, it basically just playing out of the General's Handbook. And I think there's too many tournaments that do that right now, and not enough that are saying, okay, we're doing this. You know, we're playing out of the General's Handbook, but here's our twist on it. And even when if you're looking at something being easily acquired by a new player, or like, hey, that's the game I play at home, I'm going to come to this event and play the same game I play at home, have it still be easily recognizable, have it still be like tangibly the same thing, but you can throw some extra rules on top, or take some things away, or something to
or even just shape the prize offerings, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Change the incentive structure.
Yep. Absolutely agreed. And, you know, I think that there's real value to doing that. Like, I think the point that I'm trying to drive home here, from my perception of this, is the traditional way to look at value in tournaments, events, whatever, the way that we all talk about it, sort of just in common parlance, is bigger is better. How often do you hear like the biggest Warhammer event in the world or something like that, or the biggest AoS event? I don't care. I don't care. All right? Like, no part of me wants to go stand in a big crowd of people. If I walk by a place and I see 100 people in line, I go, great. There's nothing in the universe that could be in that store that it would make me want to get in that line. Nothing. They could be giving away bars of gold bullion, and I would be like, pass. Not worth it. Okay? Bigger isn't better. What I'm arguing is what's better is having an identity, having more events that offer varied experiences. Right?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day...
And by the way, one of the variances can be big events.
Yes. Yeah,
That's my point. We're casting too small a net when the only thing we evaluate of quality is the size. No, a big tournament is cool. A narrative tournament is cool. An event that shapes the rules is cool. Somebody who creates an identity or just makes it a 3,000 point thing. So totally different lists are there. That's cool. The cool is in the different experiences. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm going to say that Paul, I think, tapped into it. Like, there's a lot of these standardized tournament experiences. And if I'm going to go to 12 events a year, all of those are competing for that same space. And so I'm going to throw in a Holy Wars. I'm going to throw in a NashCon. I'm going to throw in some of those weird events. And then I'm down to like, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 that are going to be standardized. And then the question is what does your standardized tournament invite me to do that the others don't also offer in a better venue or whatever else? And so there is a sense in which, like, going non-standard in some direction can actually, like, cement your place in the scene if you're thinking about an event, about organizing an event.
Yeah, 100%. And, I just want to call something out here that I think is a good point. Frogom said, to play devil's advocate, not every local tourney TO is a good game designer who understands how to balance or playtest rules. That said, though, I do want more variance in tourney rules. I agree. And if you're not comfortable with that as a TO, cool, don't do a different rule set. Use a standard rule set, but change your prizes. Or work hard on your terrain. Go out and find somebody who's got a 3D printer and have some really cool terrain experiences, right? And make that your thing. Like, you don't need to be a rules writer to do what we're talking about. You could just say, hey, we're doing a 3,000 point tournament, or a 1,000 point tournament, or 1,500 point, or something. We're going to do teams, 1,000 points each. Whatevs. You needed no rules knowledge or rules design there to make it a different experience, right? To make it something that's going to play differently. It's going to provide for a different experience than the standard.
Okay. As an aside, like, a lot of people, talking about the financial viability, one of the challenges is just the cost of venues and of doing all this stuff, of needing more tables. And so the answer is we need more people in order to, like, fund the venue space. Here's a hint, folks. Teams solves that problem.
It does, because then you got 4 people per table instead of 2. It's a good way to go.
And it solves the cost, entry cost. Like, if everybody's still paying the same entry cost, you're cramming more people into smaller venues.
It also can be easier for newer players to come to a team tournament with a friend who might be more experienced as a tournament player, because they're not standing there alone.
Yep.
Right? Like, if you're a newer person who hasn't gone to tournaments before, but you've got a friend who has been around a little bit, they can say, hey, it's cool, come with me. We'll be standing at the table together. We'll be making decisions together. I got your back. You're not alone in this. That's really important. Hooves, jumping over to you here. No reason.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I guess as a prelude to the tournament. I mean, I hadn't played a game in probably over a year. Hadn't played 3.0. Hadn't even played with my army. So the onboarding of the tournament was a little rough for the pregame, but I think I kind of managed to to get into the groove and started to, I think, make some decent decisions, and we pulled it out and won most of our games. So that's a good sign. But I mean, to the broader points here, I mean, like, this is a wide community,
Right.
and the game is not always hyper focused for a lot of people in the Warhammer hobby. Like I mostly from lack of opportunity. I don't always play that often. Like I said, I hadn't played in over a year. And there are plenty of people that just paint models and don't play the game. So like the holy events appeal to me as an individual, but it's not my standard that everyone should be like me. You know,
Sure.
There are plenty of people that obviously enjoy different things than me. I mean, that's obvious. So it should be a wide spectrum of different options that you can do.
Yep, agreed. Heavy D6 said, how many points is our team tournaments usually? If we're talking about the sort of 2-player format, with 2 people actively playing together, Heavy, usually it's both people either have 1,000 points or both people have 1,500 points, meaning you equate, in aggregates to either a 2,000 or 3,000 point list. So, and there's some variance in that. But that's usually the standard, which is just nice. It really is. It's amazing how many problems in this game disappear when you shrink the list to even 1,000 or 1,500 points apiece. It's amazing how many things just go away as a problem, but not being at 2K. So, okay, cool. Anything else we want to say on this, gentleman, before we move on to our next section? All right. And shout out to Josh, who said, re-teams. Having an experienced teammate was incredibly helpful. It made for 0 intimidation factor. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's fantastic. That's wonderful to hear. All right. Let's do a little recap of Holy Wars. We've talked a lot about it. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of do a little recap here. Just because I want to show people this, maybe inspire some people, hopefully get some more people to come join that. Gareth said he prefers doubles to teams. Okay, yeah, that's probably a better name. Yeah, because I know teams is often the 4-player format. So I'm okay with that, Gareth. If we doubles, that's fine. If that's the name we're using, I'm good with that. Whatever arose by any other name would smell just as sweet in my estimation. So there we go. All right. I'm just going to cycle through these real quick while we talk. And what I want to do here is, Paul, like, you guys are going to talk, and I'm just going to cycle. I'm not going to talk about this for a second. These are all pictures of the tables without army set up on them. Tom took all these the night before. What'd you think of the tables overall, Paul?
Some of the absolutely the best tables that I've ever played on. Just incredible terrain in general, both the appearance of the terrain, the design of the tables, the theming of the tables, how none of the tables just felt like a bunch of random stuff thrown on a board. It was, everything was thematic. It went together. It made sense. There was a clear setting for the game that was being established by the terrain and the board.
Yep, absolutely. Hooves, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think what there 18 tables or something like that, right? What I like about it is that every table is unique, and not just in terms of looks, but in terms of what you need to do on each table. Each table is doing different things to you. You have different objectives for every single table, so it's almost like there are 18 different games. And then when you add in the different matchups between different armies and everything else, it really is like this smattering experience that you truly get some very unique games of Warhammer that you can really never have anywhere else.
Yep. Yeah. And there's a lot of different varied terrain on these tables. And remember, he's using terrain rules. So, like, some of these things will just block line of sight or be impassable or, whatever, right? So you have to play around them. Most of these big things are impassable or something like that. And they interact with you in lots of different ways. So even if they seem open, like some of them seem more open, it's like, no. it's not.
Have you passed the Nurgle table already?
No, not yet. About to come up on it. It's right here.
The Nurgle table is a great example of that, where like the green streams themselves just blanket block line of sight.
Yeah, and the one thing that's maybe really unique is that every single table is doing its very best to kill you as well.
Yeah.
They all do tons of damage.
It's very best. Yes, it's absolutely just going ham on your army, especially depending on what you want to do and where you need to move. Which, by the way, where you need to move is usually wherever the most damage is being dealt by the table.
Right. Yeah.
One of my personal favorites. I do love the desert table. This one's a lot of fun. It's fun because in this particular event, this little terrain piece in the middle, you have to throw bodies into it, which kill them. You have to like, one of your goals is to get as many people as you can to get eaten by Nagash. And, yeah, it's like, so you have to actually sacrifice your own units to win. It's a good time.
Yep. It's a good place to have a good rally in Lifeswarm.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Vlad's Tower. I should be saying these names as I cycle through them because they all have names. They all have experiences. They all have settings and stuff like that.
Like Shifting Sands.
Yeah, the previous one was Shifting Sands, yeah. Some of these, and so somebody asked, Elo here asked, does a table that is symmetrical work better or not? Some of these are quite symmetrical. Some of them are not. But they have very different experiences based on the side you're on. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily mean one side is more positive. It just means that, like, you're going to have a different experience depending on which side of the table you end up on. So I don't know that there is a simple answer to that question, Elo here. I think it can vary. I think what you don't want is one side of the table to be super good, like it's all positives and roses if you're on one side, and one side of the table to be super bad. And that's true if you're using like mystical terrain or anything, right? Yeah. So you can have them asymmetrical experiences as long as they're equivalent in normative value, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think in the past 3 tournaments, I've never had like a conflict over what side people wanted to be on. I think it's kind of whatever side you walk up to, it seems, for the most part, at least in the games I've played.
Right. This is a new table. This is the big Tower of Blood. This table is a super amount of fun. Just to give everybody an idea of what we're talking about when we say there's effects. You know, so this like big giant blood river slows down your run just everywhere. But all these forests allow you to teleport between them. You can mystically teleport between the forests. The forests also block line of sight completely. And one of the things you're trying to do is get bodies around this central tower and make offerings to Khorne, which means you take a bunch of wounds you can't resist, and that's one of your goals, is to like make the biggest offering to Khorne. And then the little towers you can hurt yourself to get a bonus. So there's a lot of different stuff going on here on this table.
Yep.
Right.
And that's all resin pour on all of it, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great table. We played on this one as well. This one being a particularly exciting one. This is the Azir table, or one of the 2 Azir tables. This one's just great because you don't want to go in the water. To just like explain to everybody what's going on with this one, it's this sort of Vienna setup with the city over the water, and you don't go through the water. You only walk on the little boards. And you might think, well, doesn't that offer a huge advantage to flying units since they can have all these different things going on? It would, but don't worry, these little sewer grates allow you to move between them as well. So like the board is designed that different units can still move around the table in different ways.
I think Steve put the grave tokens in the water, didn't he?
The Grail tokens?
Yeah, so I think you had to go in to capture them.
Oh, I'm sure he did. That feels like something Steve would do, yeah. Go in the water and die. This table is amazing. It's only Steve can set this one up because it's so complicated. Some of these are real. Like, Tom and I have unpacked and set up many of these tables. I've never set this one up. I skipped this one and I'm like, Steve, your turn. This is the other Azir table, which is the floating islands. So it's actually, sort of 3-dimensional. You can like take the stairs up. There are also portals. As you can see, there are little realm gates that you can teleport between to get up there. Flying units can hop up to the top, stuff like that. So this one's a real challenge. The picture is very upside down. I apologize, everyone. But this is the big crumbling brass fortress. This one's a real good time because that lava is not for show. A lot of times we play on maps that have like lava You know what I'm talking about? Like you roll out the table or the mat or whatever, and it's got lava on it, and all your people are just running around on lava like it's not a thing. Like it's not insanely hot that would just melt you instantly. Yeah, that's what this lava is. It's not there for show. It's there for rules.
It's there for melting.
It's there for melting, yes. The only safe place is to get in the middle of this giant fortress that will also kill you.
Yeah. Everything on that table hurts you.
It's a very dangerous board. I mean, it's supposed to be in the Chaos Waste, so what would you expect? The Skaven Engineering plant here. I love this one. This one's real fun because the giant warpstone crystals and stuff like that, where you're trying to go around and actually start the reactors, and those deal damage to you because they're Skaven-made items, of course. Bugman's Brewery, classic one right here with the big mountains and, again, the forests and stuff that are blocking things in. You ultimately are going to have a big bar fight in this one. That's kind of the point of this one, to get around the bar, get drunk, and have a big fight. And, boop. And then finally, the icy table. I truly love this one with the pillar and the big castle in the middle. You slide around on the ice and make sacrifices, and you get 2 little monsters who get to join your team. Like, everybody gets a little magical bronze Shaggoth who fights for you.
By far, it's one of my favorite tables.
Yeah, this table's super fun. You actually can go farther when you run on the ice because you slide. So, like, you get extra movement when you run on the ice. You just kind of overshoot your journey. Yeah. And so all these are themed to a faction and a realm, right? That's kind of the idea here. All right. Here's just some close-ups of some stuff. Like, this is one of the Sylvaneth table pieces. It's just beautiful stuff like this. Like, Steve did an amazing job. So just threw a couple pieces here of just awesome work. Just other angled shots of the tables we've already looked at. All right. We're going to do a quick recap. We're just going to talk about kind of playing the games. Not in any big way. I don't want to get, like, this isn't a full tournament recap. We're going to start with the 2 of us and just kind of talk through this for fun and prizes. I think I might have your games in reverse order, Paul and Hooves. So sorry if that's the case.
Thanks for that. Thanks.
We're not going to go too deep.
Sure.
I'll actually, this first game here, this is the night before the tournament. Paul and Hooves, I said, hey, you guys want to get a game on? You know, get a test so you can get the idea of how these tables play. And they were like, well, we're both Nurgle, so we want to play on the Nurgle table. Like, okay.
It was a mistake.
We have chosen poorly. Yeah. This was a fun game. I think Hooves, your Air Force stayed in the air and never got a chance to come down.
Yeah. This is many of complete noob mistakes in this one. Yeah.
But that's why it's a warm-up game.
Yeah, it's true. Also, we couldn't run across that green ooze, so
yes,
Tom had lots of arrows coming down at my guys that were slowly walking across the board.
Yes.
Weird.
Yes, indeed. Then we got to day 1, and you guys grudged us, so we had the first game. Then we showed down on, this was a showdown at the O-Town on frankly a table that I consider to be our table. This is Tom and I's table, because we owned this. All comers were defeated. Kane cannot be, and his power cannot be stopped. The year we both took daughters, we just rode this table and actually had a rule then created in the pack the next year that you don't get extra points if you don't play on the same table for the whole tournament, because we just kept playing on this table.
I mean, we were both playing Daughters of Cain, so we wanted to play at the Temple of Cain. We played for 4 of the 5 games. The first game we didn't get it. We had to go play it.
Somebody else took it.
In Gear Rod, somebody else got it. But after that point, we claimed that table, and I love how Steve was like, nah.
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
No more.
So this is a fun showdown. This is the game where Hooves killed basically all my Stormcast. I think that's the Rat Cast. I mean, Skig didn't die, of course, because come on now. But, there was this is a bloody fight.
It was, yeah.
What'd you think of this game, Hooves?
I thought it was brutal. I mean, as they almost always are. But I mean, Nurgle is so resilient, And
Yeah.
when you get in a grind with them, where it's just you're stuck in melee for a while, oof, man, I pulled it out so many times. Right, you just drag your opponents down with you as you go. So it's invariably a lot of these games were almost split down the middle, where like one side person kind of deploys one side and the other person deploys on the other. So you almost kind of get like a matchup. And but yeah, I think we had a good time. And,
this is a very fun game. I got super. Was it this or was it the night before when I got super angry because I broke one of my fulminators? That's the angriest I was. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe your dragon died to a disease point, that was pretty funny.
That was a very hilarious moment. Yes, I was like, all I need to do is not lose priority. Okay, we lost priority. Okay, all I need to do is this. Okay, that happened, and then all you need to do was not roll a 4-up. You rolled a 4-up. Okay, I just need a 6-up. Didn't roll that. Dead. It's like, oh, well, there we go. Classic. Yes. No, this was a very fun game. We ended up pulling it out in the end, but it was a super interesting matchup. Paul, you were on your side. You were very locked in with Tom there for a while around that around the floating shrine there.
Yep, I killed so much of Tom's army from him passing off wounds from the hero that was on the shrine. It's like, I don't think I did too many wounds like directly onto units. It was just like all bodyguard saves that were getting dropped on all of his units around there.
Well, no, just one unit, but that's all that needed. Like that was that unit's job.
The Wardens got it. I know Orgots got into them at the beginning. See him in the middle. That was a showdown. Orgots did eventually go down, but then the Flies came in and cleaned it up. It was a back and forth one, man. It was a back and forth one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This was a great game, and this is such a fun board to play on. So good stuff.
Who doesn't love bonus attacks?
There we go. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is, we can all see, everybody see Severeth up on this hill and Orgots back here. This is an important action shot because just a few moments later, what would happen is Severeth would use his cheaty move in the enemy shooting phase thing to come like over here into this pocket or something. And then Orgots would nail this long bomb charge and roll an 11 and come like, I don't remember exactly how it works, but he got all the way around into Severeth.
Downtown.
Yeah. Just downtown, Paul lands the charge and lifts Severeth, which, look, that's a great moment. When you kill Severeth in melee, there are a few things that feel better in this game right now than killing that idiot. Or as Tom calls him, Sephiroth, as I had to put up with for the entire tournament. The one-winged angel
these
here.
Things just to make us mad.
Yes. Yes. Just like Vince pronounces them robots.
Robots, yeah. Sure. Necrons. All right. So you can see me over on the other side of the table here making a bad decision. That's what this is right now. This is Vince's force decided to get stuck in with too many units of Nurgle. Yep. But fun game overall. Okay. Game 2, we jumped over to the Desert Sands. Yep. And this was a really interesting game against a dual Stormcast army. So it was us against 2 Stormcast players.
Yep.
And we had this comical situation of this Annihilator off happen. Yep. That I'll talk about. I remember this, where basically the opponent had Vigilers too, by the way. Or not Vigilers, sorry. Vanquishers, which got put to real good effect jumping into the hole in the middle of the sands. I don't know if they ever made an attack roll, but they were worth $1 million jumping into that pit.
This is late into turn 2.
Yeah.
Because I had already lifted most of my opponents, like his Stardrake and all that, off the table.
Yeah. But we had this very funny showdown where I had set my Lord Imperatant out as kind of bait because I knew I had to. You have to pick something to die to the 7-inch charge of the Grand Hammer Annihilators. And so I set out the Lord Imperatant because it's going to make my Annihilators have a longer drop. So I knew it'd be a high value target for him to kill. So he had a couple units. He had multiple units of Annihilators, right? He had 3. And so he drops, pastes my my Lord Imperatant, and then I dropped on him, charged, and pasted his Lord Imperatant because he had left him open on the back. And then So now neither of us have short drops anymore. That's it. But my unit's already down, and he had 2 more to drop, so he had to put him out behind, like 9 inches off in the corner, and then with my whole army just ran away from him. You can't see his army because it's mostly over here on the corner of the table where he dropped into the corner, and then the Annihilators had to run. Felt bad for him. But it was a very fun game. It was a very brutal game. There you go. There's another little image. There you go. You can see them all back there. There they are. They're ready. They're coming.
And on the 4th turn, they came over the western dunes.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a very fun matchup. Our next game we played on the Tower of Vlad. This was a super fun matchup. This was against a combo Nurgle / Skaven player. This was... He's been a guest on the show, and I'm so angry I can't remember his name. Andrew, I think. Tolstit. That sounds right. Let's hope I'm right. If that's not your name and I'm wrong, I'm very sorry. But this was a fun game because he had like a ton of classically painted Plague Monks that were awesome. Just collections of different sculpts from all throughout time.
Yeah, and
they were all Plague Monks.
Green rim bases.
Yeah, all goblin green rimmed bases. An abomination, but an amazing abomination. And he just had Plague Monks for days. Like a unit of 30, a unit of 20, and then just 10s everywhere, and just, oh man, so much stuff. And this was a really fun showdown. Really liked this. Again, this was pretty interesting how it went. He also had like a Corruptor and stuff like that. There's a lot of interesting sort of back and forth. The Nurgle opponent had a unit of 10 Blight Kings. 10 Blight Kings. That Tom spent most of the game attacking with everything he had. Just every arrow he could muster went into these Blight Kings. And at the end of the game, I'm pretty sure they were still alive.
I mean, like, we had to call it, but like they were getting ready to be charged. But they were down to like 4 models, I think, because he kept rallying them. Like, I was shooting into them, and he would rally them and put back. He's like, oh, there go 12 wounds goes back on the unit, you know?
Yeah, just kept getting them back. Andrew yells. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Andrew. I apologize. Different Andrews. But he was an awesome dude. Super fun guy to play against. Both of these guys were great. In fact, everybody was great. But 10 Blight Kings are just unkillable by Tom. Shooting is not the answer for 10 Blight Kings. That does not work. That is not incorrect. That is a hammer trying to nail a screw into the wall. It's not happening. Like, that is not working.
It was the tool that I had.
Yeah, I understand. Normally a good answer. Not here. There's another shot of this particular game. This was the charge of the Light Brigade here. My Stormcast, you can see I'm just trying to encircle. We went for the encirclement strategy on the rats. But yeah, it was fun. And the night we did our the paint judging. So it's just a couple shots of our display board. This is the new display board that was behind me last week. So just so everybody could see it. Whatever. There you go. And dragons. And Tom stuff up here, and some rats. There's our gate to Azir that we have, that the Lord Imperatant is coming out of. So, fun stuff. Game 4 the next day. We lined up against an awesome army, Squigs and Pigs. It's exactly what it sounds like, which was an Ironjawz player who was Bloodtooths with all the piggies and a Mega Boss on Maw Crusha tooled up, and then a Squig player with all the Squiggies in the Maws of Jork. And this was a scary game because that bowling ball was just ready to drop on us at any point in time. And I want everybody to pay attention to the Ironjawz player over here. To see this little tiny splash of orange and yellow? That is the Lore Seeker, who bravely stood alone against the entire Ironjawz army, setting up 3 inches away from their line in turn 1 to shut off all of the mighty destroyers in the entire army, so they couldn't do anything but charge him, which they declined to do. They just moved around him and then had the Mega Boss come up and stomp him to death, so he could get a bonus wound and attack. But then what happened is... Great for me,
because my secret mission was Ultimate Sacrifice, where one of my heroes died to one of their heroes.
Yeah, sure. So that worked out perfectly. Our strategy here was rather straightforward. stall the Iron Jaws player and gum up his movement, while our entire army then pivots around the clock left clockwise and kills the Goblin player into non-existence. And that's more or less what we did. The Iron Jaws player, I don't think, got to make an attack roll until round 3. So I'm sorry about that.
We were 2 hours into that round before he rolled an attack roll.
Yeah.
Other than smashing. No, that's not true. Because
he got to kill the heroes and then my Annihilators, yes.
He had to smash my Lower Keeper, and then you drop your Annihilators turn 2, which delayed more.
Yes. So I guess he did get to make those attack rolls. But obviously those weren't the ones he wanted to be making. Let me say it this way. Before he got to make an attack roll he wanted to make, yes.
Yes.
So that was a very fun game. Here's another shot of it. Just kind of later on, the pigs are trying to sneak out. This game ended pretty wildly with everybody running toward that tower and just killing themselves for corn. Just like, just massive amounts of people throwing themselves against the bladed walls of the Tower of Corn. So, good times. Our final game was on the Challenge Stone table, which is one of my favorite tables. And this was against a Stormcast Living Cities combo, which... again, proved real tough. This was a very, very, very bloody game. Oh my god. It was very back and forth.
You can see he dropped, in that first image, it was a Living Cities Stormcast matchup.
Yeah.
Where he had the full, alpha shooting. And so you see him dropping off of on my left-hand side, like a Hurricanum and 20 shooters, and then Outriders rode up the table. It was just... I planned on taking the hit and letting Severus bite the bullet, possibly. But that's not what happened.
Yep. And thanks, Travis. I just noticed you talked about our display board. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I'm excited about it. It was I think it uses 10 different kits or something for all those different terrain pieces to make that mine. So it was fun. This happened. This is my last shot of ours. This is one of the funniest rolls in the game. Toward the end of the game, our opponent rolled his dice, and he got it to balance exactly on the quarter with the roll. And I've seen unbalanced die because they get stuck on terrain or stuff like that, but it was stuck in a blade of grass, effectively, on foliage, on flock. It stopped right here. And just sat there. Yes. Yeah. So that was a very funny moment when that happened.
And then Annihilators failed a 7-inch charge.
That did happen.
Yeah.
That was a pivotal moment. Those Annihilators were sitting out there and just stranded, and then they died. Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, here's the Annihilators failing their 7-inch charge. These guys right here. Yes. But this was a great game. This was truly back and forth, bloody, just killing stuff left and right. Very fun opponents. Really good time. I mean, all 5 games were great. That's the take home that should be here. All right. Paul and Matt, I want you guys to talk through some of your stuff. So, Radio Free Hooves. Here's the first game from your perspective. You already kind of talked about it, but anything else you want to talk about fighting us? Oh, no, I'm sorry. This isn't the first game. This is your last game. I'm sorry. This is Tower of Vlad. Yeah, because I think these are in reverse order. I don't know. Whatever. Look, we got to deal with it. I tried to put them in the order. I put them in the way you sent them to me, so blame them for being out of order as you sent me the pictures. This is on Vlad's Tower. So tell us about this game.
Go ahead.
So I'm trying to remember. This was Kenny Lull that we were playing against.
Yep.
And I am blanking on his teammate's name. But they were playing an all-mounted team list. Was Cities of Sigmar and Stormcast. And it wasn't just here's all Fulminators and Dragons. It was, here's some Concussors and Evocators and the guys on the Vanguard,
birds, the Paladors.
The Paladors. There was Sisters of the Thorn in there. It was everything.
It was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were very, very, very fast. They were everywhere on the board on us. Thankfully, the terrain kind of worked in our favor in this game. Kind of blocked some things out and let us kind of take on like a couple of things at a time.
That happens on this table.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we tended to kind of push a little too much down one side, and we kind of got bogged down. There wasn't as much room to maneuver. The other side was a little bit more of a kind of, close combat mire against a whole bunch of Blight Kings.
Yeah, I've got some action shots here as well with you guys moving up the board so people can see how this is happening. Yeah. I noticed the kitty caters or whatever this is or whatever these are behind you. Something got behind you here.
Oh, they were everywhere because they're so fast, and they come in from. I think a whole bunch of units were coming on from kind of ambush or whatever they can do in Stormcast. That Vlad's tower there, right? I think the way we did it anyway is that each person on the team during the hero phase can nominate a hero. You roll 4+, and you basically do D6 wounds that can't be saved to kind of a target of your choice.
Yep.
And that got a little, because it gets a little spicy. So like that's the main terrain objective. So like whoever does the most damage of that is the team that scores those points. We didn't have many heroes. We only had 3 heroes across both our lists. So about halfway through the game, they were all dead. So that wasn't so good. But we did summon on a couple like little low wound.
There you go. Call up Slobody, man. He's got you covered right there at 7 points. He's ready to go.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
And we put them in the building at the back.
Nice.
And to counter that, they immediately rolled their 4+ and did the maximum damage to one of our characters and killed them off. So that foiled their strategy, and we couldn't get that main objective. But really fun game. Lots going on. Again, I'm super impressed by how much damage Blight Kings and stuff can take. And I guess for context, I took 3 units of 5. Paul took 2 units of 2. So we had the wounds and the resilience on the table. It's really hard, I think, for some people to deal with. There wasn't too many people that did teams of the same faction. It was pretty. Well, most teams were kind of one faction and then something else, so it was kind of diverse. But it was hard to deal with that double Nurgle.
Sure. The next one up is Bugman's. By the way, Steve said you let Kenny remove the statue so he could put his little flying guy up there. I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Kenny moving statues. See how it is.
That was actually that wasn't Kenny, but it was the other guy on the team, his friend. And of course, at that time, I think the Griffin had 1 or 2 wounds left, so we were trying to figure out how it could get back down. And yeah.
There you go. All right, then we go to Bugman's Brewery. Tell us about your showdown here on here in Bugman Town. Paul, you want to take this one? Yeah.
So we lined all of our Puscoils and Lords of Afflictions up on one side.
Yes, I can see that.
We were both in Drowned Men, and so we got that 8-inch pregame move, and then we outdropped our opponents. They were playing Stormcast and Sylvaneth. And they had like disproportionately deployed their units over to the side where our Puscoils were. And we just basically ran up the board, took first turn, made like all of the charges. I think one of my highlights of this entire event was turn 1 casting Gifted Disease and hitting 12 units with it. They just had a big clump of units on their side, and it was just like, okay, you're all sick now. And those did quite a bit of work. Like those little bits of disease did a lot of work over the course of the game because they just wouldn't go away.
Sure.
But yeah, we just moved up that side of the board, pinned them in, and just ground it out for the rest of the game.
Yeah, it was an interesting one too, because at the very end of that game, the pub explodes.
Yeah, sure.
And so the main terrain objective is how many models are killed rather than wounds. So for us with multi-wound units, that posed a bit of a challenge. So what we did is we kind of systematically tried to kill off anything that was 1 wound on their side, and then the last round refused to fight anything that had more than that because we didn't want to wound them so that they died in the explosion. And then we summoned on a whole bunch of plague bearers, hoping that they would die, and they did. It's great.
Nice. Yeah, this is a super fun table, as Josh just said in the chat. Shout out to the 0 rend result on the Bugman's drunk table. It is important to note that on this table, when you're near Bugman's, you can drink, and that has lots of different results, including bonuses to attacks or being too drunk to fight accurately, and you go down to 0 rend, no matter what your normal rend is. So yeah, it can be fun.
Yeah.
Zinch table next up. This is an exciting one. I love the Zinch table. This thing is a killer, man. These this one will get you because you got a lot of stuff you're trying to navigate here on this one. It is a weird twisting table of non-sensory that happens on the Zinch table. So tell us about this matchup.
So they were both playing Cities of Sigmar. One was Living City and one was Hammerhall. The Hammerhall player had a Griffin and all demigriffs. Mm-hmm. And then the Living City player was a bit of a Neapolitan mix of a variety of different things. The Zinch table I love. You can't really see it too well in the picture, but there's an Eye of Zinch terrain piece on the table, and each turn that moves. Right. And everything within 6 inches of it, when it moves, takes D3 holy wounds. And the movement of that thing is determined by a roll-off at the beginning of each turn, and whichever player wins the roll-off gets to move it wherever they want. And it's interesting, you'd think that's just automatically really overpowered, but once you start getting into combat, it's hard to not ding your own units in the process.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, just because of being in the mix. There's a couple tables that have this sort of thing where something on the table, a piece of terrain on the table, will move and do wounds in a radius. And it just becomes the situation that once you get in the mix, it's almost like your best result is killing more of their people, hopefully, than you do of yours, right? That's kind of what you can pick because it's just you're in the scrum.
Yeah, and the weird thing too about that terrain piece is that it's one of those terrain pieces that you can't move across too, so you can just kind of put it right in front of your opponent's army, and they're like, "What do we do now?"
Right.
So we got some luck on that one. They moved up all their demigriffs. They didn't get a single charge off, at least on my side. We managed to get the actual turn on them and charge in, and so they're stuck in combat with me for the rest of the game, and that didn't go so well for them.
Here with this shot, we can see you dropping this in front of their whole army of demigriffs and such. I think in this shot we also see the true hero of your list, Hooves, our friend the Chaos Spawn over here, the most forward troop, just ready to do work. This bad boy right here, MVP, no doubt.
He was surprisingly annoying just to kind of throw off on the side so that people couldn't, move as easily with their units. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, in the game on the Bugman's table against the Sylvaneth player, the Chaos Spawn shut down one of their trees. Just stood in the middle.
Sure.
Was nope, you're not teleporting here.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Next up, we had your game on the Ogre Challenge Stone table. So we played on this one as well. Tell us about this one. I'm gonna jump to the action shot here of you guys in mid fight. Clearly, you're playing Skaven, partially because I can see the null holes always being an easy dead giveaway on a Skaven player. So tell us about this one.
It was Skaven and Beasts of Chaos that we were playing against. The main objective on this table is basically to do wounds near the challenge stone. And the radius
fights around
grows.
It,
there's a radius around it that grows every turn that you want to be doing your wounds in. So we basically just jumped into the middle, right around that thing, and just hugged the stone and made sure all of the combat was happening there.
Yeah, and we should say the stone itself is impassable, so you can't like get up on it or go around it or something like that.
Right.
So it ends up
Yeah.
you don't actually have a full scrum in the middle. It ends up being this fight in a donut, like around the thing, is usually what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, the stone also increases everyone's attacks by 1 as well, so it's a pretty brutal melee one. The beastman player really did a heavy ambush, and so we were just completely surrounded on all sides. It was a crazy fight, but Blight Kings versus a bunch of Skaven.
Yeah, my money's on the Blight Kings. That is a terrible matchup for rats. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. I charged Orgots into a unit of 40 clan rats and just picked up half of them in 1 round of combat.
Sure. Yep, sounds about right. Yeah, this is such a fun table. We should also state that these fires are not nothing. They're real. Those fires do, like fires would, they burn you a lot. They're real hurty. Fire makes bad pain. You don't stand near the fires. So, okay. Here's another action shot of just what's going on there. You guys are really hanging out near the fires a lot. I'm seeing a lot of units near these fires and these action shots. I'm like, you guys, there was a 6-inch bubble around that fire that I did not cross. No way I'm getting near those things. I don't have the units.
Well, it depends on when you dropped, because if you dropped at the end of the movement phase,
yeah. Like, yes, but I mean, like in general, we didn't get near the fires with our normal movement, right? But I didn't have a lot of wounds. Stormcast being fairly elite, whereas these Skaven /Beast /Nurgle matchup is like, yeah, whatever, fine, take a couple wounds, who cares? We love being lit on fire, yay! So, and then here's sort of the matchup. We get good. You had a picture of this action shot of all that's left. I forgot. I think this is the only picture I kept of our game, just to end on. This is actually your game 1, so I definitely did it in reverse order. Sorry. Of you still having some flies left and me being down to like 2 fulminators. Just all of my forces are in ruin.
Yep. Well, I mean, like I had the secret objective that my character had to be killed by a monster, which is why I tried to drop the flies and hopefully get in contact with you, but then you ignored them the rest of the game and ran off somewhere else.
I tried to kill your character many times, not just with monsters.
That's true.
That little idiot wouldn't die. So I don't know what to tell you. It's your own fault for making him so tough. So at any rate, there you go. That's the full thing. It's a super fun event. If you're anywhere where you can get to it, I would recommend people check it out. But I hope it's inspiring and just kind of showing this type of stuff we talked about, right? Because there's different objectives you're trying to control that are around the table, and these like grail tokens. There's different things you're trying to do near the terrain pieces. You have like your secret mission, as Tom mentioned, where trying to get a character killed or trying to kill something with a hero or trying to be on a certain area of the table in a certain round or that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of little different things going on. So we didn't, to go back to the original point, you didn't really miss stuff like battle tactics or things like that, right? So there you go. At any rate, Paul Hooves, it was great seeing this weekend. It was great playing Warhammer against you. And thanks for coming on the show, both of you. This is a fun discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad to be here for my 13 and a half appearance.
All right. Well, you know what? We'll upgrade it. You got the full 14. There you go. It counts.
Right.
Yeah. Because, of course, the last time Paul and I were on this together was back in War Games.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think that might have been the first appearance on your channel for the both of us.
It was. Yeah.
There you go. How about that? Boy.
There you go.
That was a fun concept. It just never really took off. But it's tough to do those kinds of things digitally, right? If we could, maybe there's a live format on the other side of this that we could do for special events. At any rate, Tom, anything final you want to say?
No, it was fun.
Had a great time. Thank you, Steve. Thank you to Bell. Thank you to all of that crew that works with Steve, including his sons, who helped a great deal. It was super fun. Thank you to all of our opponents. Great games all around. Great time. It's always a fantastic event. Get out there, go to some tourneys, find something in your area, get involved. It's super fun. It's not just whack players trying to kill you with hard lists. You can have a good time. This event or other events, get involved in the community. I've built so many friendships and met so many cool people doing these events. I wouldn't trade that for anything. So thank you both, Paul, Hooves, for coming on the show. Great time as always. Thank you all out there for watching. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and hit those other buttons that are all important. Do all the things that you do with YouTube stuff. It helps other people find the show, and it's the easiest thing, and it's totally free. Who doesn't love free and fun, right? That's what we're all here for. So, thank you all for watching. We very much appreciate it. And as always,